Miguel Street, Chapter 12. Love, 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 Alone. About 9 o'clock one morning, a hearse and a motor car stopped outside Miss Hilton's house. A man and a woman got out of the car. They were both middle-aged and dressed in black. While the man whispered to the two men in the hearse, the woman was crying in a controlled and respectable way. So I suppose Miss Hilton got the swiftest and most private funeral in Miguel Street. It was nothing like the funeral we had for the other old widow, Miss Record, the MBE and social worker who lived in a nicer part of the street. At that funeral, I counted 79 cars and a bicycle. The man and the woman returned at midday, and there was a bonfire in the yard. Mattresses and pillows and sheets and blankets were burned. Then all the windows of the grey wooden house were thrown open, a thing I had never seen before. At the end of the week, a sign was nailed on the mango tree, "For sale." Nobody in the street knew Miss Hilton. While she lived, her front gate was always padlocked, and no one ever saw her leave or saw anybody go in. So even if you wanted to, you couldn't feel sorry and say that you missed Miss Hilton. When I think of her house, I see just two colors, grey and green. The green of the mango tree, the grey of the house, and the grey of the high galvanized iron fence that prevented you from getting at the mangoes. If your cricket ball fell in Miss Hilton's yard, you never got it back. It wasn't the mango season when Miss Hilton died, but we got back about 10 or 12 of our cricket balls. We were prepared to dislike the new people even before they came. I think we were a little worried. Already, we had one man who kept on complaining about us to the police. He complained that we played cricket on the pavement, and if we weren't playing cricket, he complained that we were making too much noise anyway. Sergeant Charles would come and say, "Boys, the super send me. That blasted man ring up again. Take it a little easier." One afternoon when I came back from school, had said, "Is a man and a woman. She pretty, but he ugly like hell, man. Portuguese they look like." I didn't see much. The front gate was open, but the windows were shut again. I heard a dog barking in an angry way. One thing was settled pretty quickly. Whoever these people were, they would never be the sort to ring up the police and say we were making noise and disturbing their sleep. A lot of noise came from the house that night. The radio was going full blast until midnight when Trinidad radio closed down. The dog was barking and the man was shouting. I didn't hear the woman. There was a great peace next morning. I waited until I saw the woman before going to school. Boy, he said, "You know what? I think I see the woman somewhere else. I see she when I was delivering milk up Mokorapu way." The lady didn't fit in with the rest of us in Miguel Street. She was too well dressed. She was a little too pretty and a little too refined, and it was funny to see how she tried to jostle with the other women at Mary's shop, trying to get scarce things like flour and rice. I thought Boy was right. It was easier to see this woman hopping about in shorts in the garden of one of the nice Mokorapo houses, with a uniformed servant fussing around in the background. After the first few days, I began to see more of the man. He was tall and thin. His face was ugly and had pink blotches. Had said, "God, he's a first-class drinking man, you hear?" It took me some time to realize that the tall man was a drunk, practically all the time. He gave off a sickening smell of bad rum, and I was afraid of him. Whenever I saw him, I crossed the road. If his wife, or whoever she was, dressed better than any woman in the street, he dressed worse than any of us. He was even dirtier than George. He never appeared to do any work. I asked Hat, "Oh, a pretty nice woman like that come to get mixed up with a man like that?" Hat said, Boy, you wouldn't understand. If I tell you, you wouldn't believe me. Then I saw the dog. It looked as big as a ram goat and as vicious as a bull. It had the same sort of thin face its master had. I used to see them together. Had said, if that dog ever get away, it go have big trouble here in the street. A few days later had said, you know, it just strike me. I ain't see those two people bringing any furniture at all. It look like all they have is that radio. Edders said, it have a lot of things I could sell them. I used to think of the man and the dog and the woman in that house, and I felt sorry and afraid for the woman. I liked her for the way she went about trying to make out that everything was all right for her, trying to make out that she was just another woman in the street with nothing odd for people to notice. Then the beatings began. The woman used to run out screaming. We would hear the terrible dog barking, and we would hear the man shouting and cursing and using language so coarse that we were all shocked. Had said to the bigger men, it's easy to put 2 and 2 and see what happening there. And Edward and Edders laughed. I said, what happening, Hat? Hat laughed. He said, you too small to know, boy. Wait until you in long pants. So I thought the worst. The woman behaved as though she had suddenly lost all shame. She ran crying to anybody in the street saying, help! Help me! He will kill me if he catches me! One day she rushed to our house. She didn't make any apology for coming unexpectedly or anything like that. She was too wild and frightened even to cry. I never saw my mother so anxious to help anyone. She gave the woman tea and biscuits. The woman said, I can't understand what has come over Tony these days, but it is only in the nights he is like this, you know. He is so kind in the mornings, but about midday something happened and he just got mad. At first, my mother was being excessively refined with the woman, bringing out all her fancy words and fancy pronunciations, pronouncing comfortable as comfortable, and making war rhyme with bar, and promising that everything was definitely going to be all right. Normally, my mother referred to males as man, but with this woman, she began speaking about the ways of men's and them, citing my dead father as a typical example. My mother said, the onlyest thing this boy father was that it was the other way around. Whenever I uses to go to the room where he was, he uses to jump out of the bed and run away bawling, run away screaming. But after the woman had come to us about 3 or 4 times, my mother relapsed into her normal self and began treating the woman as though she were like Laura or like Mrs. Baku. My mother would say, now tell me, Miss Herrera, why you don't leave this good-for-nothing man? Mrs. Herrera said, it is a stupid thing to say to you or anybody else, but I like Tony. I love him. My mother said, it's a damn funny sort of love. Mrs. Herrera began to speak about Tony as though he were a little boy she liked. She said, he has many good qualities, you know. His heart is in the right place, really. My mother said, I wouldn't know about heart, but what I know is that he want a good clout in his backside to make him see sense. Oh, he could let a man like that disgrace you so. Mrs. Herrera said, no, I know Tony. I look after him when he was sick. It's the war, you know. He was a sailor and they torpedoed him twice. My mother said, they should have tried again. You mustn't talk like this, Mrs. Herrera said. My mother said, look, I just talking my mind, you hear? You come here asking me advice. I didn't ask for advice. You come here asking me for help. I just trying to help you. That's all. I don't want your help or advice, Miss Herrera said. My mother remained calm. She said, All right then, go back to the great man. It's my own fault here, meddling in wild people business. You know what the old Calypso used to say, is love, love, love alone that caused King Edward to leave the throne. Well, let me tell you, you're not King Edward, you hear? Go back to your great love. Mrs. Herrera would be out of the door saying, I hope I never come back here again. But next evening she would be back. One day my mother said, Mrs. Herrera, everybody afraid that dog you have there. That thing too wild to be in a place like this. Mrs. Herrera said, It isn't my dog, it's Tony's, and not even I touch it. We despised Tony. Hat said, It's a good thing for a man to beat his woman every now and then, but this man does it like exercise, man. And he was also despised because he couldn't carry his liquor. People used to find him sleeping in all sorts of places, dead drunk. He made a few attempts to get friendly with us, making us feel uncomfortable more than anything else. He used to say, Hello dear boys, and that appeared to be all the conversation he could make. And when Hat and the other big men tried to talk to him as a kindness, I felt that Tony wasn't really listening. He would get up and walk away from us suddenly, without a word, when somebody was in the middle of a sentence. Hat said, It's a good thing too. I feel that if I look at him long enough, I go vomit. You see what a dirty thing a white skin does sometime? And in truth, he had a nasty skin. It was yellow and pink and white, with brown and black spots. The skin above his left eye had the raw pink look of scalded flesh. But the strange thing I noticed was that if you just looked at Tony's hands and saw how thin and wrinkled they were, you felt sorry for him, not disgusted. But I looked at his hands only when I was with Hat and the rest. I suppose Mrs. Herrera saw only his hands. Hat said, I wonder how long this thing go last. Mrs. Herrera obviously intended it to last a long time. She and my mother became good friends after all, and I used to hear Mrs. Herrera talking about her plans. She said one day she wanted some furniture, and I think she did get some in. But most of the time she talked about Tony, and from the way she talked, anybody would believe that Tony was just an ordinary man. She said, Tony's thinking about leaving Trinidad. We could start a hotel in Barbados. Or, as soon as Tony gets well again, we will go for a long cruise. And again, Tony's really a disciplined man, you know. Great willpower, really. We'll be alright when he gets his strength back. Tony still behaved as though he didn't know about all these plans for himself. He refused to settle down. He got wilder and more unpleasant. Hat said, He behaving like some of the uncultured people from John, like he forget that latrines make for some purpose. And that wasn't all. He appeared to develop an extraordinary dislike for the human race. One look at a perfect stranger was enough to start Tony cursing. Hat said, We have to do something about Tony. I was there the evening when they beat him up. For a long time afterwards, the beatings was on Hat's mind. It was a terrible thing, really. Hat and the rest of them were not angry. And Tony himself wasn't angry. He wasn't anything. He made no effort to return the blows. And the blows he got made no impression on him. He didn't look frightened. He didn't cry. He didn't plead. He just stood up and took it. He wasn't being brave. Hat said, He just too damn drunk. In the end, Hat was angry with himself. He said, He's taking advantage. We should not do it. The man ain't have feelings. That's all. And from the way Mrs. Herrera talked, it was clear that she didn't know what had happened. Hat said, That's a relief anyway. And through all these weeks, one question was always uppermost in our minds. How did a woman like Mrs. Herrera get mixed up with Tony? Hat said he knew, but he wanted to know who Mrs. Herrera was, and so did we all. Even my mother wondered aloud about this. Boy, he had no idea. He said, Hat, you know the advertisements people does put out when their wife or their husband leave them? Hat said, Boy, you know you're getting too damn big too damn fast. How the hell a little boy like you know about a thing like that? Boy, he took this as a compliment. Hat said, Oh, you know anyways that Miss Herrera leaving she husband? How you know that she ain't married to Tony? Boy, he said, I telling you, Hat, I used to see that woman up Makurupo that way when I was delivering milk. I telling you, some man. Hat said, White people don't do that sort of thing, putting advertisement in paper and thing like that. Edda said, You ain't know what you're talking about, Hat. How much white people you know? In the end, Hat promised to read the paper more carefully. Then big trouble started. Mrs. Herrera ran out of the house screaming one day, He going mad! He going mad, I tell you! He will kill me this time for sure! She told my mother, He grabbed a knife and he began chasing me. He was saying, I will kill you! I will kill you! Talking in a very quiet way. You do him something? My mother asked. Mrs. Herrera shook her head. She said, It is the first time he threatened to kill me, and he was serious, I tell you. Up till then, Mrs. Herrera hadn't been crying, but now she broke down and cried like a girl. She was saying, Tony has forgotten all I did for him. He was forgotten how I took care of him when he was sick. Tell me, you think that is right? I did everything for him. Everything. I gave up everything. Money and family. All for him. Tell me, is it right for him to treat me like this? Oh God, what did I do to deserve this? And so she wept and talked and wept. We left her to herself for some time. Then my mother said, Tony look like that sort of man who could kill easy without feeling that he really murdering. You want to sleep here tonight? You could sleep on the boy bed. He could sleep on the floor. Mrs. Herrera wasn't listening. My mother shook her head and repeated her offer. Mrs. Herrera said, I am all right now, really. I will go back and talk to Tony. I think I did something to offend him. I must go back and find out what it is. Well, I really give up, my mother said. I think you're taking this love business a little too far, you hear? So Mrs. Herrera went back to her house. My mother and I waited for a long time, waiting for a scream. But we heard nothing. And the next morning, Mrs. Herrera was composed and refined as ever. But day by day, you could see her losing her freshness and saddening her beauty. Her face was getting lined. Her eyes were red and swollen, and the dark patches under them were ugly to look at. Hat jumped up and said, I know it! I know it! I know it a long time now! He showed us a personal column in the classified advertisements. 7 people had decided to leave their spouses. We followed Hat's finger and read, I, Henry Hubert Christiana, declare that my wife, Angela Mary Christiana, is no longer under my care and protection, and I am not responsible for any debt or debts contracted by her. Boy, he said, is a safe self-same woman. Edda said, Yes, Christiani, Dr. Fellow, know him good, used to pick up rubbish for him. Had said, Now I ask you, why? Why Omold want to leave a man like this for Tony? Edda said, Yes, no Christiana good house, nice car, full of money, you know. It have a long time now I see him. Know him from the days when I used to work at Makurapu Way. And in about half an hour the news had spread through Miguel Street. My mother said to Mrs. Herrera, You better call the police. Mrs. Herrera said, No, not the police. My mother said, Like you afraid police more than you afraid Tony. Mrs. Herrera said, The scandal. Scandal hell, my mother said. Your life in trouble and you thinking about scandal like if this man ain't disgrace you enough already? My mother said, why you don't go back to your husband? She said it was as though she expected Mrs. Herrera to jump up in surprise. But Mrs. Herrera remained very calm. She said, I don't feel anything for him, and I just can't stand that clean doctor's smell he has. It chokes me. I understood her perfectly, and I tried to get my mother's eye. Tony was growing really wild. He used to sit on his front steps with a half bottle of rum in his hand. The dog was with him. He appeared to have lost touch with the world completely. He seemed to be without feeling. It was hard to imagine Mrs. Herrera or Mrs. Christiani in love with him, but it was impossible to imagine him being in love with anybody. I thought he was like an animal, like his dog. One morning, Mrs. Herrera came over and said very calmly, I have decided to leave Tony. She was so calm I could see my mother getting worried. My mother said, What happened now? Mrs. Herrera said, Nothing. Last time he made the dog jump at me. He didn't look as if he knew what he was doing. He didn't laugh or anything. I think he going mad, and if I don't get out, I think he will kill me. My mother said, Who you going back to? My husband. Even after what he print in the papers? Mrs. Herrera said. Henry's like a boy, you know. If he thinks he can frighten me, if I go back today, he will be glad to have me back. And saying that, she looked different and hard. My mother said, Don't be so sure. He know Tony. Mrs. Herrera laughed in a crazy sort of way. Tony was Henry's friend, not mine. Henry brought him home one day. Tony was sick like anything. Henry was like that, you know. I never met a man who liked doing good work so much as Henry. He was all for good works and sanitation. My mother said, You know, Mrs. Herrera, I really wish you was like me. If somebody did marry you off when you was 15, we wouldn't have been here hearing all this nonsense you hear, making all this damn fuss about your heart and love and all that rubbish. Mrs. Herrera began to cry. My mother said, Look, I didn't want to make you cry like this. I'm sorry. Mrs. Herrera sobbed, No, it isn't you. It isn't you. My mother looked disappointed. We watched Mrs. Herrera cry. Mrs. Herrera said, I have left about a week's food with Tony. My mother said, Tony's a big man. You mustn't worry about him. He made terrible noises when he discovered that she had left him. He bayed like a dog and bawled like a baby. Then he got drunk. Not drunk in the ordinary fashion. It got to the stage where the rum was keeping him going. He forgot all about the dog and it starved for days. He stumbled drunk and crying from house to house looking for Mrs. Herrera. And when he got back, he took it out on the dog. We used to hear the dog yelping and growling. In the end, even the dog turned on him. Somehow it managed to get itself free and it rushed at Tony. Tony was shocked into sense. The dog ran out of the house and Tony ran after it. Tony squatted and whistled. The dog stopped, pricked up its ears and turned round to look. It was funny seeing this drunk, crazy man smiling and whistling at his dog, trying to get him back. The dog stood still, staring at Tony. Its tail wagged twice, then fell. Tony got up and began walking towards the dog. The dog turned and ran. We saw him sprawling on a mattress in one of the rooms. The room was perfectly empty. Nothing but the mattress and the empty rum bottles and the cigarette ends. He was drunk and sleeping, and his face was strangely reposed. The thin and wrinkled hands looked so frail and sad. Another "For sale" sign was nailed to the mango tree. A man with about 5 little children bought the house. From time to time, Tony came around to terrify the new people. He would ask for money, for rum, and he had the habit of asking for the radio. He would say, "You have Angela radios there. I charge in rent for that, you know. $2 a month. Give me $2 now." The new owner was a small man, and he was afraid of Tony. He never answered. Tony would look at us and laugh and say, "You know about Angela's radio, boys? You know about the radio, eh?" Hat said, "Who will tell me why they ever have people like Tony in this world?" After 2 or 3 months, he stopped coming to Miguel Street. I saw Tony many years later. I was traveling to Arima, and just near the quarry at Laventil, I saw him driving a lorry. He was smoking a cigarette. That and his thin arms are all I remember. And riding to Carnegie one Sunday, I passed the Christiani's house, which I had avoided for a long time. Mrs. Christiani, or Mrs. Herrera, was in shorts. She was reading the paper in an easy chair in the garden. Through the open doors of the house, I saw a uniformed servant laying the table for lunch. There was a black car and a new big Kai in the garage. End of chapter 12.